Alright, looking at chapter 6.3 for this week. You have a test coming up next week, just so you're aware. We did chapter 5 for 2 weeks to start the year. That was with slope and graphing lines and standard form and all that. If that rings a bell, I hope so. But we'll be reviewing next week, so just in case you don't remember all that. We had substitution last week, which was your box and switch method that we did, and then this week is all about solving by elimination. And as I said, we'll have a full week's process of reviewing, which is why being in this class is actually good for students who have an issue with picking up stuff, because we're going to break elimination down into a 3-day process. So hopefully by the end of this 3 days, you'll be pretty good at it. Last week, though, we did learn how to solve using substitution. We learned how to do a box and switch method to set up the problem. A real quick review, again, just to make sure you remember, we found a variable that was by itself. We realized what that variable was equal to, so y and 3x minus 4 are both the same because of that equal sign, and then I put just the y in the parentheses. We then wrote everything in front of the parentheses, which is 5x minus. We swapped out the y for 3x minus 4, and then we put equals 12 in our last part. Based off of what we know, this distributive property said to distribute the negative to everything, so we end up with 5x minus 3x and plus 4, which is where a lot of you were messing up earlier. Putting like terms together, you get 2x plus 4 equals 12. And then, of course, solving from there, subtract 4 first, you get 2x equals 8. Dividing by 2, you get x equals 4. That was our first answer, and then remember that what we did from there is rewrite one of the two equations. I told you typically the one that has a y by itself is easier. Now that we know x is 4, we would simply take and change this x into a 4 and work it out. 3 times 4 turned into 12 minus 4, which is 8. In the end, we wrote that as an ordered pair as 4, 8 and left it alone as being done. It is a very good thing if you understand how to work out this problem. I saw a lot of you on the quizzes that did a pretty good job. The question is, how do we approach solving this problem here? As you can see, if you're reading, the problem has one major issue. Which variable do we box? There is not one variable alone. There's not a variable that's set to be alone. There's a lot of numbers here, and it really doesn't work. And so the question of how we solve a problem like this, we use a process called elimination. To do elimination, we get rid of one of the variables so the problem is easier to work with. In solving, all of our solving, we have never solved with 2 variables at a time. Even looking back at this, we had 2 variables over here, but once we substituted, notice we only had an x left over, which was 1 variable. If you think about the other ones where we substituted for x, all of our x's went away and left us just 1 variable. So the whole point of solving, whenever you have more than 1 variable, is rewriting the equation properly so that there's only 1 variable to deal with. So anyway, to do elimination, again, we get rid of one of the variables. The steps are simple, but it's easier to understand if it's fed a little bit at a time, which is why we're taking 3 days to do it. Just be sure to ask questions about the parts you're having issues with. Again, those of you who did not do well, I don't take any responsibility if you fail, because I give you a lot of in-class time to practice, and talking to me after you get the F doesn't affect me. It doesn't help me. It doesn't help you. Talk to me before you get the F so that I can try to get you on track, and you should actually talk to me right when you know you don't understand it so I can try to help you out. But coming to me afterwards and saying, hey, I just don't get it, I'll say okay, but I still got to put an F in the book, and if you got to be here again next year, I don't feel bad about it, because I am working hard to make sure you have a lot of class time, a lot of practice, and a good lesson to go along with it. So make sure you are working like you're supposed to. Otherwise, like I said, there is no sympathy coming from me if you have to be here again as a junior or a senior. Use multiplication. Pretty much one of the things you have to do in elimination is make the values match. So looking at just skills one at a time, if you had an x and a 7x and I wanted these two things to match, what you would say is this is a regular x, that is a 7x, and you can use multiplication. What we can do is we can multiply this top x by 7, making this 7x on top, 7x on the bottom. I've done my job. It's that simple. You look at 3x and 2x and you say, okay, 3 and 2, I think they meet at 6, because 2 doesn't go into 3, but 2 does go into 6. Remember when we added our fractions? If you want to make that a 6, multiply by 2. If you want to make this a 6, multiply by 3. 2 times 3x makes 6x. 3 times 2x makes 6x. Notice that my x's match. Looking at 8x and 6x. 6 doesn't go into 8. It doesn't go into 16. It does actually go into 24. And so we can multiply this by 3. We can multiply this to make it 24 by 4. You turn up with 24x here and 24x down here. Remember, I told you that adding fractions seems like it's something that you want to get away from, but some of the concepts replay themselves. This comes from our adding fractions process, so you kind of use that to go. The thing is, if you look at 8x and 6x, you could still make them meet if you just brought up 6 and brought down 8, because 6 times 8 is 48x, 8 times 6 is 48x, and in this situation, you actually could still get it right. Again, the easiest shortcut is to use the bottom value on the top and the top value on the bottom. So look back at these examples. There was nothing on top, so I multiplied nothing on the bottom. There was a 7 on the bottom, so I multiplied a 7 to the top. Look here, there was a 3 up top, I multiplied to the bottom. There was a 2 on the bottom that I multiplied to the top. That is the easiest way to actually do elimination if you get stuck, is just to take the two numbers and swap them and multiply them out, and it works. The next step, again, building on this skill. It's still the same skill no matter what in everything we're doing to start out. It's just a matter of having more terms. Now, instead of just multiplying, we are actually going to use the distributive property. So again, focus only on the x's. X and 4x means that this x needs to be multiplied by 4, but notice I need everything in the parentheses. Now what I have to do is take 4 times x, which is 4x, plus 12y, and since that's already a 4x minus 2y, that is what the system would look like after that. Alright, so again, all I did was find out what to multiply x by and multiplied everything by that number. Same thing here, 5x minus 4y, 2x plus 7y, ignore everything else, focus only on your x's. The easiest way to do this is to multiply the top by 2, notice there was a 2 down there, and multiply the bottom by 5. Now you distribute this 2, you end up with 10x minus 8y up there. When you distribute this 5, you get 10x plus 35y there. Notice that your x's are the same, and you have a different type of y. Again, that is the process that we are getting to. If you're having issues with this right now, please make sure you bring your computers to one of the teachers so that we can discuss with you what's going on. It's not that you are lost, it's just that it's something that you might not be getting right now, and I think we can get you on track if you come and get some assistance now, because really all we're going to do next is expand this a little bit further. The last one, 4 and 6. Again, thinking about it, 4 doesn't go into 6. 4 does go into 12, so what we're going to do is multiply the top by 3. To make this 12, we would multiply the bottom by 2, and once you do that, you just have to distribute correctly. 3 times 4x is 12x, 3 times 2y is 6y, 2 times 6x is 12x, which is what I want, 2 times 3y is negative, 2 times negative 3y is negative 6y. And then you have your answer right there where those two things match. So again, all we're basing everything off of is making our x's match. As long as you have that down, feel free to continue. If you do not have that down, again, now is the time to pause the video and come over to one of us and let us know that you're having an issue understanding how to make the numbers match on there, so we can talk to you about it. Other than that, if you have it down, then now you are ready to go, because eliminating x is very easy. So one more step. Here we go. So you got 6x and 3y, 2x and 4y. Focusing only on the x's, your x's actually meet at 6, because 2 times 3 makes 6. And so I will multiply this by 3. You end up with 6x plus 3y on top. You end up with 6x minus 12y on the bottom. Here's the thing though. If you want to eliminate x, that means they need to be opposite. And so to make them opposites, what you do is you take your bottom row and you simply switch every sign. So watch carefully. This is a positive 6x. I will make it negative. This is a negative sign. Watch how I just simply write a line through it, making it positive. And now what I can do is add everything up one line at a time. 6x minus 6x goes away. 3y plus 12y makes 15y. And that is how you determine what y is left over. Very, very simple again once you understand how to switch it. But you have to make sure you know how to manipulate this part first in order to get down to here. Again, if there are any questions, you should stop, raise your hand, ask a question, bring it to your teacher, whatever it might be, but make sure you are communicating if there's an issue, because these things are moving slowly faster and faster. 4x minus 2y, x plus 7y. If I want these two to be the same, I will multiply this by 4. The top stays 4x minus 2y. The bottom turns into 4x plus 28y. Right? These are both the same, and remember I need them to be opposite, so what I do is I will switch everything. This 4 will become negative, and in order to make sure I don't read this wrong, I will scribble out the plus and put a little negative over it so I know that's a negative 28 and add up all my terms. 4x minus 4x is gone. Negative 2y, negative 28y. If you are not good at that, then feel free to put negative 2 plus, which means combined with, negative 28 to see that you get negative 30y. Even if you're not the greatest with numbers, you eventually get better at that, but there's two different levels of math. One is being good with numbers, one is understanding the process. Some of you understand the process, but you're just not good with numbers, and you allow that fear to kind of affect you. Don't do that. Just make sure you learn how to use the calculator, learn how to use your tools. That way, if you are bad with numbers, that you can still kind of fight your way through it. The most important thing in math, though, is the process, so just make sure you're at least understanding that, and don't allow your fear of numbers to stop you from doing other things. 5x plus 2y, 2x plus 5y. Again, I want 5 and 2. I don't think about the other letter, just x. So what I will do is multiply this by 2, multiply this by 5. Distributing, I get 10x and 4y. Distributing this, I get 10x plus 25y. Again, my 10x's are the same, but I need them to be opposite, so what I will do is switch my whole bottom row so that 10x becomes negative. I scribble out this plus and put a minus there. This goes away, and again, you can easily type 4 plus whatever the second number is, which in this case is negative 25, to get the answer of negative 21y. And that is what you end up with. Okay? So one of the things on your Math Excel or on your assignment today should have something that says eliminate x to determine what y is left over, and that is how you do it. Again, if you have an issue with that, please go see your teacher, let your teacher know, let me know, let one of us know, so we can try to get you on track. Last thing, once you understand how to use multiplication to eliminate x, the rest is simple, and then what we're going to do is watch the last couple examples before moving on to Math Excel. The only difference between this question and these questions is that this has 3 terms and this one had 2. So you notice a theme. We started off with 1 term making it match, and then we went to 2 terms, and now we stop here at 3 terms. If you ever get higher than that, you're going to go to 4 terms and 5, but I don't think I've ever worked out a 5 question thing. But anyway, you just add more terms, more letters, but the process is the same. We start out by looking at our x, even though we have a equals 12, a equals 5. Pay attention to the fact that everything is the same. You start out by making your x's match, multiply that by 4, multiply that by 3. Distribute, and be sure you distribute everything. If there are 3 things on the inside, everything has to be distributed. So we end up with 12x plus 8y equals whatever 4 times 12 is. And again, if you don't know, just use your tool. 48. Down here we get 12x minus 3y equals 15. Remember again, we want our x to eliminate. That's why we call it elimination. So we need opposites, which means we switch every sign. That becomes negative. This becomes positive. And just to make sure, what some people do is they put the negative here. Make sure you put the negative somewhere where you can see it so you don't get lost and you don't forget it's there. Other than that, when we add everything, the 12x's cancel like we need them to. 8y, 3y make 11y. 48 plus negative 15 gives you 33. And then look at the level of math that we do next, and your instinct should already be telling you what y is. All we have to do if we want this answer is divide by 11 to find out that y is 3. So again, the process is simple. It's just that you have to make sure you understand the basics of it. And again, the overall basics is to just make sure you know how to make your x's match. As long as you know how to make your x's match, you will be fine. 3x plus 2y equals 28. X plus 3y equals 21. Focus only on the x's. How do I make these two things match? Well, by multiplying this by 3. The top equation stays the same. 3x plus 2y equals 28. Here, as I distribute, I get 3x plus 9y equals 63. My x's are the same, but I need them to be opposite, so what I do is switch every sign in the problem, again making sure those negatives are visible because otherwise it's going to mess everything up. Notice your 3x's cancel because they're opposites. 2y minus 9y, or 2y plus negative 9y, is negative 7y. 28 and negative 63. Typed it in wrong. Gives me negative 35. And again, whenever I have a negative variable, I just switch both sides and solve from there. Again, your brain is probably already telling you what y is, but after you divide by 7, you find out that y is equal to 5. Again, the process is simple. Just make sure you practice it. No matter what happens the rest of the day, just be sure to use your class time to practice and ask questions. Otherwise, you're going to begin to get left behind for the week. Tomorrow and Wednesday are based on this process that we're learning, so allowing yourself to miss it is pretty much setting yourself up for failure, especially on the quiz at the end of the week, because this is a major part of your quiz at the end of the week, and you want to at least make sure you have that part. But I guarantee that as long as you understand how to at least make these two numbers match, even just the idea, the rest of it is just making sure you get any mistakes out of your way. Alright, so other than that, go ahead and go to your Math Excel and start practicing. Again, use this class time wisely. If you failed the last quiz, you know you have some changes to make. Otherwise, you can expect to probably not do so well. Good luck.